Hello, Dr. Marandi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Katie?
Good. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. It is such a relief to see you. You obviously are in the line of fire, one of the lines of fire that exist right now. Before we ask you anything else, just tell us, please, what is happening right now in Tehran where you are, what the mood is like, if how you are holding up, how your family are holding up, your friends, if you know people who have been displaced or, God forbid, killed.
Um, I live in isolation from my family for obvious reasons. But actually, I was speaking to a friend. I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before. I'm not sure. But his brother-in-law, he owns a business, and he hired 2 truck drivers to take some goods to another city. And the Americans bombed both trucks and killed the drivers. So that's, I guess, I've never met the person, but he's the person who hired these people is the brother-in-law of a very good friend of mine who I am in constant contact with. So at that's at the personal level, if that, excuse me, if that's, if that counts, so there's
Yeah,
that.
of course.
We have regular bombings in Tehran, often carpet bombing in densely populated neighborhoods. Ever since the first day when the Americans targeted the school and killed the 168 elementary school girls and a couple of dozen teachers and school staff, the government has shut down schools and universities, and encouraged people to leave if they can, if they have a place to go. So Tehran is not very crowded. Actually, I traveled from um, uh, east and west. I went from one side of the city to the other, and then went back. And there wasn't much traffic, even though today is a working day in Iran, because the weekend in Iran is Thursday and Friday. So it's a working day here. But it wasn't, the traffic was pretty light. Some of the shops are open, some are closed. Unlike the 12-day war, where you really couldn't find places that were damaged. And now you can see just, every now and then you see a destroyed building. Hospitals have been destroyed. Yesterday, we had the International Quds Day demonstrations, which are held every year on the last Friday of the month of Ramadan in support of the Palestinian people. And there were huge rallies across the country, and there was a very large one in Tehran. I went and participated, and they bombed it. And one woman
Right.
was killed. So they bombed the rally. And I tweeted about it, and I did 3 or 4 tweets. I tried to sort of create awareness, but I didn't see it anywhere in the Western media. I mean, this is first time I can think of ever where a demonstration was bombed from the air. But it wasn't the only time that happened. They bombed I know they bombed a demonstration in Isfahan, but I don't know if there were any casualties. But people have been on the streets every day. A couple of nights ago, they walked nearby this studio, people at night, huge crowds in support of the war and the defense and the armed forces and the leader and the state. So yeah, every night people go to the streets under missile strikes, sometimes during the day. But they stand their ground. I mean, if you look at my Twitter feed, if you look at my Twitter account, I posted where when they bombed the rally and people did not flee. No one, men and women, they stood their ground. It was amazing. I've never seen such a thing before in my life, online or with my own eyes. So yeah, that's basically, these are some of the things that have been happening for the last few days.
Well, I'm so sorry. I mean, I feel I hope it's hard to even speak to it. Like words kind of fail. But I'm just so sorry for what is happening to you and to the people of Iran. And also, of course, I feel awful that it's my government that's doing it. Um, and I'm just incredibly grateful to you and all the people who are resisting. Um, and you know, you are showing, I think, model behavior. I think the West is just doesn't understand this kind of behavior. I don't want to say there are no brave people in the West, but I would certainly say that, you know, when it comes to to military attacks, you know, especially the way that Israel and the United States behave is such it's such a strong contrast with the people of Iran. And you know, I don't really like to even give voice to this, but it is such uh, a common talking point. I think it's worth addressing and debunking. And I spoke to it a little bit with Charmine, but you know, people have been saying, and I can't believe it, that these are accidental strikes. Even the attack on Minab, some people are saying it was bad. You know, Trump messed up. You have Democrats calling it a mistake. What is your response to these claims that this is kind of these are inadvertent?
Well, with regards to Minab, I can't provide evidence for it, obviously, but that was the first strike. It was the first day. And the first strikes are usually very well planned because they want to have maximum effect. They want to do maximum damage to their enemy. So, like the strikes that take place today, they may be looking for targets and that sort of thing over the last few minutes or hours. But the first day was obviously very well planned. And that school was a well-established school. It was there for a very long time. And so I find it really impossible to believe that it was a mistake. You can find it on any app in Iran. It's clear what it was. And, you know, when I see the evidence of the double tap attacks that have taken place many times in Tehran, those weren't mistakes. Double tap attacks are very carefully carried
Right.
out. And they've been doing it across Tehran. They've been doing it across the country. I think I may have said this before, but a friend of mine was witness to a double tap attack in Ferdowsi Square. A journalist who works for, I think, Drop Site News, who is an acquaintance of mine, told me himself that he interviewed people at another place where a double tap attack took place, and I've heard it from many others. So when you see these things, I mean, a double tap attack is intended to kill first responders.
Right.
That's the objective.
Right.
There's no other reason to do it. And when it's done in the middle of the city, in a square, on a main street, in a side street, in on apartment buildings, or in a school or a hospital, then and there's a double tap attack, then it's even it's there's no way to explain it other than to say that the intention is to kill and terrorize ordinary people. So when I see the double tap attacks, and when I see that the slaughter in the school happened on day one, and also on day one there was another massacre that went unnoticed, and that was an attack on a gymnasium where they were mostly girls who were playing volleyball, and they were all killed too. But that went unnoticed because of the school. That was also in the south of Iran. So, the first day is not a day where they were just rushing to find targets. Those targets were probably being thought through for days, if not weeks.
Right. And of course, the Minab attack was a double tap as well. So it's just inexcusable.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And when the United States imposes maximum sanctions on Iranians, when the United States openly strangles Cuba, and when Trump says that I can destroy countries, and there's no pushback from the Western media, the mentality of Western, of the Western elites is to crush people, to crush ordinary people, to crush children. Right now, the Israelis are carrying out airstrikes on apartment blocks in Beirut day and night, and they're flattening apartment blocks, and they're trying to make another Gaza in southern Lebanon and in Beirut. Well, they're the closest ally of the United States. So when the Israeli regime is intentionally doing it, what makes the U.S. armed forces any different? Especially when I don't see how anyone can escape. How these people can justify these attacks and pretend that they're mistakes. That's what they've been doing in Gaza for well over 2 years. The U.S. Armed Forces has been assisting them. The British have been assisting them. The Europeans have been assisting them. They're assisting them now in Lebanon, and they assisted ISIS and Al Qaeda in Syria. Why wouldn't they target the school in Iran? I mean, what would suddenly have to change for that to be beyond belief?
Right. Exactly. It would require a total change in values. Brad, can you tell me if the clips that Nate has sent you are ready? And I'm also sending you something else, and it's a tweet that has an image, and then in the same thread it has a video. But Dr. Marandi, you actually tweeted out a video of Donald Trump calling in to speak to Brian Kilmeade on Fox News. Let's play that, because I think it's disturbing, but it's important to expose precisely what you just mentioned, which is the media complicity in this war launched by the West.
This is about ISIS. So,
actually, it's interesting. When I say the West, I always mean like I mean Israel and the United States, even though obviously Israel isn't located there, but that they're part of the axis, I guess, of evil that's run from the West, right? That's appropriate. Okay.
Yeah.
And say,
Oh, sorry. Did you want to say something, or?
No. I'm good.
Okay.
This is about ISIS. So, I mean, how do you get into the mindset of this? How do you stop it?
They're sick people, and a lot of them were let in here. They shouldn't have been let in. Others are just bad. They go bad. Something wrong. There's something wrong there.
So
the genetics are not exactly. They're not exactly your genetic.
And I'm sorry. This is when he's saying this is about ISIS. This is a response to a question. Let's see. He said in response to a question about the Iranians who moved to the U.S. under Biden's policies, as well as Iranians in general. So let me play this again, because now that I've introduced the context correctly.
And say, this is about ISIS. So, I mean, how do you get into the mindset of this? How do you stop it?
They're sick people, and a lot of them were let in here. They shouldn't have been let in. Others are just bad. They go bad. Something wrong. There's something wrong there.
So
the genetics are not exactly. They're not exactly your genetic. It's one of those problems, Brian. It's a terrible thing, and it happens. And it happens too often.
So bringing up to today, there's a lot of Iranians, over 700, over 1,700 came to our border over the 4 years of President Biden, over 700.
Okay, so Dr. Marandi, can you hear this? I know you can't see it. Were you able to hear it?
Yes.
Okay, great. So sorry. Okay. And then so what is your response to this, eugenicist, basically?
I think that, he's saying the quiet part out loud. And it's just like with Cuba, when he lost the vote, Supreme Court, for tariffs. If you recall, he was angry at a press conference and said, "Look, I can destroy countries, but I can't impose a $1 tariff on other countries." And he was alluding to Cuba,
right?
And no one pushed back, because destroying Cuba, destroying a country of 10 million is normal, I guess, for the American political class. And so you didn't see any headlines in the New York Times or the Washington Post or the liberal, let's say, faction of the legacy media condemning that. And he's been talking about about Iran repeatedly. He said, I can destroy Iran, and I may destroy it so that it can never be rebuilt. And well, that's basically genocide. And you don't see any pushback at all in the Western media because they're all a part of this demonization, whether it's the New York Times or Breitbart, or whether it's the Guardian or the Times in the UK. It doesn't matter. They're all the same when it comes to empire. They all belong to the same Epstein class, and they have the same values or the same lack of values. So here, basically what he said is that we are subhuman. We Iranians are abnormal. And it's interesting that the host says something about ISIS and so on. ISIS was actually a creation of the United States, as you know, as your audience, most of them know. ISIS and Al-Qaeda were created with the help of their regional allies. Once you and I discussed this once in some detail a few weeks ago, so I don't want to go over it. But that's their own creation. That's their own monster of Frankenstein. Just like the neo-Nazis that they create, or the Boko Haram that they create, or the fascists that in Latin America they created. It's their own creation. But to say that Iranians are abnormal, that's like saying, that's like saying people of color or dark-skinned people are subhuman or abnormal, or Slavs in the case of the Russians. As I said, I think this is something that this is something very widespread. And the fact that there's been no real pushback in the Western media shows that at the end of the day, this is a common belief. And people like him and the media are preparing the grounds to kill Iranians.
Yes.
To kill children. Yeah. Because if there's something wrong with their chromosomes, then they're by nature inferior, they're by nature evil, so they can be slaughtered.
Right. I mean, it's very Hitlerian.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to just go back to that clip of Kilmeade and Trump, and trigger warning everyone, but they said some more stuff.
How important would it be to get out that besiege force, the thugs that walk the streets and the moral?
We could do
are we aiming for them?
No, these are bad people. They go out shooting protesters. You're a protester, they shoot you right through the head. This is an evil group of people. And if we had them have a nuclear weapon, they would use it and they wouldn't lose an ounce of sleep.
Interesting. I mean, just a reminder, of course, about Renee Good and Alex Preddy, who were shot through the head. And Trump's administration called them domestic terrorists. But please respond. Your response, Dr. Marandi.
Yeah, and again, they bombed a demonstration yesterday. They bombed people in Tehran protesting against the war, and they murdered a woman with a missile. And they have the audacity to talk about peaceful protesters. There are no one in Iran ever gunned down peaceful protesters. And I think by now everyone knows what the terror attacks and the semi-coup attempt that we saw a couple of months ago, that it was all linked to the same war. The U.S. Treasury Secretary brought down the currency, then Mossad and the CIA brought in weapons and ordered their terrorists across the country to assault the police and assault state institutions and public property. That's what happened. Yes, 3,117 people were killed, including 200 police officers and more than 100 volunteers. And I don't know the exact number, but most of the people were killed by these terrorists. And if anyone is to blame, I mean, definitely people are to blame. It's the United States. It is Trump himself who murdered these people because he supported these terrorists. And right now he wants to do the same thing by hiring a Kurdish terrorist to attack Iran, or by bombing Iran himself and slaughtering people, carrying out double tap attacks, murdering kids at school, and trying to blame Iran and say that Iran actually had Tomahawk missiles, and they
Right.
themselves killed their own kids, even though it was the first wave of attacks. I mean, the United States hadn't begun the war before then for Iran to retaliate. So this is how the United States works. And again, as I said, while there are excellent people across the United States, you, Brad, and others included, and they're not they're not just a few, there are many, no doubt, lots of good people. But there are those people who, when Trump says that they are genetically different from us, there are a lot of people who buy into that, and it's not just MAGA people. If it wasn't, if it was just them, then you would see his opponents outraged by these comments. But I have yet to see that outrage.
Right. And you see people arguing
His
against
mainstream opponents.
Right. And you see people in the media and Democrats arguing against what's happening to the Iranian people, not just saying this won't work, this will backfire, it won't have the regime change, or Margaret Brennan asking Rubio why there wasn't a fuller regime change in Venezuela. I was about to say Cuba, Freudian slip, because hopefully they're not next, but he's definitely implied that they are next. I want to show a clip related to the bombings that you've been talking about of Pete Hegseth. And this is a cool mashup, poignant mashup that Breakthrough News did. Brad, if that's ready, if that's not ready, I can ask about something else.
Yeah, Katie, I apologize.
No, that's okay. I'll ask about something else, and then we'll get to that one.
Okay. Great.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I wanted to show something, it is despicable that the media isn't speaking about the victims of this war, and you contrast the way that the media talks about Palestinians or Iranians with the way that they spoke about Ukrainians and Ukrainian children. And of course, I'm not celebrating, the murder of anyone, any civilians, or you contrast that the way that to the way that they talked about Syrian children. Not the Syrian children killed by the current leader of Syria, right? But the Syrian children who they claim were killed by Assad in attacks that it's very undetermined whether it actually was by Assad, etc. But this child I saw, he's been, a lot of people have seen this image. And it's just painful. It is Brad, can we zoom in on the top one of those, top image? So this is an incredibly sweet child. If you go up a little bit, Brad. So little Mikhail proudly tells everyone, Mikhail means God's angel. I can't see, Brad. It's tell me your wish, I'll fulfill it. He's saying of his love for Iran and his homeland's victory. He is called now Mikhail, the angel of Iran. That's him waving goodbye to his mother for the last time before he was killed in a strike. And now there's video of him singing. And I just wanted to play it. And maybe the people who don't care about what's happening in Iran will see this and realize that these are the type of people who are being killed.
With the wrong sort of genes.
I'm sorry? Say that again, sorry?
With the wrong sort of genes.
Right, exactly.
The children with the wrong sort of genes.
Right, the abnormal, yeah. So can you tell us what he's saying?
I couldn't hear properly.
Oh, okay.
But I think he was saying something about, from what I remember, he was saying something about fathers.
Yeah.
And something like that. But,
yeah. Right, because it's not, sorry about that. You can't hear it with well enough. If anyone speaks Farsi in the chat and can tell us what was said, Nate, if you can look and see if anyone translated it then please let us know. But You've seen this video already, and I just wanted to make sure people saw it
Yeah.
because, again, it is inconceivable that people here are cheering this on at the worst, or perhaps at the closest being indifferent at the best. When I say the best, I mean people in media and our political elites. The range is from cheering it on to saying, oh, this is not a good idea because it's going to backfire in terms of U.S. interests, not saying, oh, this is not a good idea because it's doing things like killing these children.
Well, I mean, Katie, why would they care? I mean, no one at the New York Times cares about these kids. No one in the Washington Post, no one at CNN cares.
Right.
These are the same people who've been trying their best for well over 2 years to help the Israelis carry out the genocide in Gaza. They've been, we've been seeing images and footage of buildings collapsing and children's legs hanging out from under the rubble, and or like kids being thrown across the street and hanging from the building next door. We've seen so many, or kids being burned alive in fires. We've seen so many of this over the, well over 2 years. And these people have been trying to say that this is not a genocide and that this is a more moral army, and to blame the Palestinians. So this is who they are. They have no humanity. Right now, as we speak, they're slaughtering families in Lebanon. It's worse in Lebanon than in Iran. They carpet bomb Lebanon, and they're bringing down apartment blocks in Beirut. Their intention, they call it mowing the lawn, or the Dahiya doctrine.
Right.
Dahiya is that southern Beirut neighborhood that they're flattening right now. And the West has journalists there. In Gaza, they kept saying we don't have people on the ground. They have people in Lebanon, but those journalists are themselves bound to the Epstein class, because that's who pays them. So even though some of them are Lebanese, or some of them are Westerners, but they have Lebanese fixers, drivers, producers, they're going to call those apartment blocks Hezbollah strongholds,
Right.
or Hezbollah targets, even though they're just like 10, 15 families living in them, because that's how they maintain their jobs. That's how they pay their mortgage. That's who they are. So I have zero expectations of senators and Congress people and journalists and the legacy media, because they're completely corrupted. I mean, if they weren't completely corrupted, there would be revolution over the Epstein files, to put it very bluntly. They would be up in arms, literally. So, but they're not, because they don't care about American kids. And if they don't care about American kids, why in the world would they care about Palestinian or Lebanese or Iranian kids?
Right.
So to you and me, and to Brad, and to normal people, to your audience, this is utterly this is abnormal. But and it's impossible for us to comprehend how people could be like this, because we're all normal people.
Right.
But these people, they have no moral compass. They're void of morality.
Yeah. It's so disturbing. So we do have now that
I mean, look at Cuba. I mean, Katie, just look at Cuba. They're strangling a country. And no one cares. I mean, not that I don't mean ordinary people, but no one you're not seeing anyone in mainstream media saying, why are you strangling kids in Cuba? I mean, the kids in Cuba, they can sing songs like him in Spanish.
Right. Of
They're
course.
probably doing that at school too, about their fathers and their mothers and their sisters and their brothers. But they strangle them too.
Yeah.
Or when they bomb boats, and it's just we could go on, but that's just how it is.
Right. Yeah, I'm joining a convoy that goes to Cuba on the 20th that Code Pink and Progressive International are organizing. So I'll be there with a bunch of people to show solidarity with the people of Cuba, to document what's happening, and to, show our governments that they shouldn't be doing this. But yeah, they are next, and they are in the crosshairs. And of course, as we point out constantly, even when it's not a physical war, sanctions are murderous. They don't just cripple economies and harm people. They do actually kill people, because you have people deprived of dialysis, you have people deprived of cancer treatment, you have people who can't get their insulin. So again, we have a sadistic power structure. Dr. Marandi, how much time do you have so I can prioritize what to ask you, because you are so hardworking?
You're the boss, so
okay,
you're the boss. So
I'm going to put that on my website.
My seat this is a very uncomfortable seat, so that's the only problem. Otherwise,
right.
I'm good.
Well, if you want to stand up,
if you see me constantly moving around,
okay,
it's because the seat is terrible.
Yeah. Oh, I wish you had a cushion or something, but and feel free if you need to walk around or something. I can show a video while you do that. So we have another video. This one is of this is the Breakthrough News video. You have that one, Brad, ready? So this is a good mashup that our friends at Breakthrough News did of Pete Hegseth and the people of Iran.
Leadership is in no better shape. Desperate.
Wait, sorry, let's start from the beginning.
Iran's leadership is in no better shape. Desperate and hiding, they've gone underground, cowering. That's what rats do.
Okay, let me translate this. Sorry. So, and here you have an Iranian leader. Okay.
That's what rats do.
God willing, we too. And this is Mohsen Ejei. Sorry, I'm butchering it probably. Chief Justice of Iran.
He's the head of the judiciary.
Okay, yeah. God willing, we too, like the people who have this passion and emotion, want to be with the people, alongside the people. And while he's speaking, a bomb explodes. So you see and hear that bomb exploding. So watch this. I mean, you see the vibration. Until our last breath and until the last moment. The people are not afraid of this. The message of and here you have the Secretary, Supreme National Council, Ali Larjani. Again, I'm sorry about my Farsi pronunciation.
No, it's good.
The people are not afraid of this. The message of the people's presence is that we stand firm against. Sorry about this. Is that we stand firm against the enemies. God willing. Thank you. And now you have the president of Iran who's walking without a bodyguard, without security. This is Masoud Pezeshkian. Peace be upon you. He's saying to people, they're saying that to him. Today is Jerusalem Day in Iran. And now we have the maybe the world's most patient man, Abbas Arachi, who's been making the rounds on media shows and trying not to laugh when asked absolutely ridiculous questions. Okay, so let's see what he says here. Today is Jerusalem Day in Iran. And despite the brutal attacks and assaults that the Zionist regime and the U.S. carried out just today, we are facing a flood of millions of people, not only in Tehran, but in all cities. This shows the firm determination and will of Iranians in supporting the Islamic Republic, in supporting the issue of Jerusalem, in supporting Palestine, and in supporting all the ideals that we have had over these years and have brought us to this point. So yeah, incredible contrast between the words of
these are the rats.
Sorry?
These are the rats.
Oh, right. The rats. Exactly. The rats were hiding.
Rats.
Right. Yes, exactly. Let's see where I would love to see Pete Hegseth in a comparable situation. Something tells me he wouldn't be walking without bodyguards throughout the streets.
And they bombed, as we said earlier, they bombed this demonstration. They
Right.
bombed peaceful protesters. I don't know if that's ever happened in human history before, but all these
Yeah,
Iranian
right. Yeah.
senior officials were there too, with the people, as it happened.
Right. Yeah, it's
And no one escaped. No one ran away.
right.
Neither the people nor these leaders.
Right. Yeah, or the people filming or anything. Yeah. I mean, that is not I have to I wouldn't do I don't have that bravery, I have to say. And I
Well,
want
we'll see.
oh, yeah. Well, inshallah we won't have to see it over here. Although again, it's like I mean, it's
Inshallah.
yeah. Oh, and I
But
wanted to,
I
yeah.
think that I personally think that people who are on the side of righteousness and what is right, that they are more steadfast than others,
Yeah.
because you know what you're doing is right.
I actually wanted to ask you about that. You
I
know,
mean, you may be afraid.
right. Right. Yeah, I'm not it's funny when people say fearless. I mean, the brave thing is to not be fearless, is to be full of fear and still do it. And I wanted to, well, I'm going to save that because I want to ask you another more like political question. And then I will go to a question that I have that's a more philosophical one, which is something you and I touched on a little bit over Telegram the other day. So I want to ask you about the newly named leader. There is, of course, a lot of people claim that, Khamenei was dead and now there'll be no Iranian leadership, etc. But tell us about the new. Tell us about Mochiba. First of all, I can't pronounce his first name. So is it Mojaba Khamenei, the son of the previous Ayatollah?
It's Mojtaba.
Mojtaba. Okay,
Mojtaba.
Mojtaba Khamenei,
That's right.
the son of the previous Ayatollah, who's now been elected the new supreme leader. Obviously, Trump is, quote, not happy with this choice, which is a great endorsement. So what can you tell us about him?
Well, he's a scholar. He's a high-ranking scholar. He's studied at both university, but also at religious seminaries. He's been teaching high-ranking students for 20 years, but his office, very low profile. All of my children are low profile people. No see on everything. And none of his kids have businesses. He's from the beginning when he became leader. He forbade that for any of his children, and not that he's against private sector, but he said that it's not appropriate for my family to be in business. So he was a low profile person, but he's very well acquainted with politics and foreign policy and the economy in the country, because he's been in aid to his father for a very long period of time. I think that there will be a strong amount of continuity. But in general, the fact that, when they say that the Ayatollah Khamenei has been martyred, and so, it's over, that's really nonsense. We have a constitution. And whenever a leader is either removed from power or is martyred or passes away, the Constitution is very clear what happens. A three-man council runs the three heads of the head of the judiciary, the head of the president, and a representative from the guardian council. Those three people run the country until the council or assembly of experts elects a new leader. And that's what will be in the future as well. So there's no dead end. The country has a very sophisticated political system. It has a sophisticated constitution. And I think those people among Western elites, the ones who like bombing people, that's their racism. They think that anything that is not like them is unsophisticated and abnormal and unstable. That's why they say regime all the time.
Right.
Regime has a very negative connotation, and it's supposed to mean abnormal. but they'll never say like the French regime or the Saudi regime or the Israeli regime or the, I don't know, the Kuwaiti or the, but they'll say it to Iran or Cuba or Venezuela, the Maduro regime or the Venezuelan regime, the Cuban regime. That's for us, for Iran and them.
It's
But
just
in any
literally
case,
bad. That's all it means.
they're-
Like, that's all they do is if it's bad, then it's regime. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't mean to say that everyone who uses it, the term, is being nasty. It's so widely used.
Exactly. They don't even realize.
that
Yeah.
a lot of our mutual friends who I won't name, I see them use it when they speak about Iran, and I know they don't mean it in a bad way,
Right.
but it's been said so often, it's said so often that it's just that's the first thing that comes to mind for them, the first word to use, even though they don't mean it in a bad way.
Right. Yeah, I had to try, like, train myself to stop saying it because it's so pervasive. Yeah, but that is all it is.
I often use it. I do the reverse. I say the Trump regime, the American regime, and so on. This sort of, if they weren't saying it about Iran, I wouldn't do that. But it's sort of like my decolonizing response to the narrative.
Right. Yeah.
I don't mean to be nasty. It's just
it's accurate though.
Yeah.
And speaking of language, actually, something I asked Sharmeen we didn't get to, but can you just explain to people who don't already know why the term, especially because you're a professor of Orientalism, but the term West Asia instead of the Middle East, where that comes from?
I don't know where it comes from. I don't know where
or why
it's
used though.
Well, because the Middle East is sort of a Eurocentric term.
Right.
So you have the Near East, the Middle East, and the Far East. So China is the Far East, but far to where? To Europe. So it is a sort of Eurocentric geography. But when you say West Asia, well, West Asia, then you have East Asia, you have South Asia, you have Central Asia, and you have Europe. So it's sort of I think it's a better phrase. Of course, the Middle East, when they say the Middle East, they often also include Egypt. But when you say West Asia, it doesn't really include Egypt that much. But you can say West Asia, North Africa,
Right.
But I prefer West Asia myself.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I wanted to show a couple more clips, by the way. Brad, we have a few more clips of this protest, not protest, demonstration. What would you call it? The Jerusalem Day. It's a it's a protest in support of Palestinians, right? Is it called
Jerusalem Day? Yeah.
Jerusalem Day. Yeah. So, which was again bombed, and as you said, it's not getting a lot of attention that this happened, but we actually have some images of that. We have one of them is one that you posted, and then Nate, if you could give Brad the last two ones, the one that Max Blumenthal posted, and one that someone else posted. That would be great. Okay, so let's just take a look at this one. I'll describe it because you'll remember though because you posted it. But this is good for our audience to see. So there's you can see the bomb in the air. And as you can see, and as Dr. Marandi described, there's no one is running from it. People are very steadfast and they're staying there. We also have one. Sorry, what were you gonna say? Oh, there may be.
Actually, there's another clip that I retweeted.
Yeah.
And there's this young woman who's speaking in English and explaining things, and then suddenly, and she's explaining what is meant by Allahu Akbar, and then suddenly there's the explosion, and people, it was that there are numerous clips, and you would think, Katie, that this would be like the top news story in the world,
right?
A massive protest against Trump and against Netanyahu is bombed by American and Israeli aircraft, but nothing. It's a blackout.
Right, exactly. Yes, you retweeted this, and the thing that I mentioned was tweeted by Max Blumenthal is actually is precisely the clip that you also retweeted. So here it is. Let's take a look at this. Brad, do you have this one yet, or do you want me to show it?
If you wouldn't mind, because I
right.
don't think I have it yet.
Okay, yeah.
Apologies.
Sorry, I know Nate and I have been bombarding you with images. Okay, one second. Okay, we did that one. So that one you posted, why isn't it global news? Very good question. And then let me play this one. Okay. Thank you everyone for your patience. Oh God, Bucky. Shh. Sorry about that.
You thank everyone for their patience, but I'm the one sitting on this chair.
Well, thank you especially. I thank everyone for their patience, and speaking of steadfastness and fortitude, Dr. Marandi.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. So here it is.
Hey American people, whenever you hear Allahu Akbar, you usually think an explosion would follow because this word has been misused by extremists like ISIS members. But I want to tell you what it really means. Allahu Akbar means God is greater than anything and more powerful than everything. Allahu Akbar means God is greater than the U.S. aircraft carriers, and that's why we did not fear when they appeared in the Persian Gulf. Allahu Akbar means God is greater than the US B-2 bombers, and that's why we do not run away, despite constant explosions and fire jets flying over our heads. Allahu Akbar means God is great. Allahu Akbar! Great. Allahu Akbar! 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 Did you see what just happened? An explosion really happened right behind me, and people did not run away. They didn't fear. They just kept chanting Allahu Akbar because Allahu Akbar means God is greater than anything. God is greater than any superpower in the world, and their equipment and their weapons. So we are not afraid of the United States of America because God is greater and God is with us.
I mean, you couldn't have like choreographed that or made that up. You know, she's saying God is great and that they're fearless and that ISIS has misused it and they're not the ones who are bombing and you know, the United States is. And then lo and behold, that literally happens and she doesn't run off and neither do any of the people. So.
Yeah, it's quite, you know, it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary how the Iranian people are reacting to all this and the courage and the bravery of these men and women, some very young girls and boys who've never seen war or anything like that, but they're standing their ground and they're motivated by morality. These are the people who, of course, Trump says have genetic, you know, they have genetic problems, that they're subhuman. Just like the Zionists, who, and of course, thus they all deserve to die. They deserve to be bombed. That's why when they're bombed, the Western media doesn't even report it because they're not worthy of being reported in the news. You would think that this woman, when the West talks about women's rights, which has always been a lie.
Of course.
Women in Iran are far more emancipated than women in the West. But I mean, the whole narrative of Iran is upside down. It's Iran and of course Yemen and the resistance and Hezbollah that are opposing genocide. It's Iran that's supporting, you know, Cuba and Venezuela and all these countries that are under the boot of empire. But this young woman, you would think that in the West they would applaud her for her courage and bravery. But of course, she's abnormal in the eyes of the New York Times and CNN MSNBC and Fox News and the BBC and Sky News and so on, just on television. I was in another part of Iranian radio and TV when they bombed it, and there were two women who were on air at that time. One was on television presenting, and they wouldn't leave. And the bomb exploded, and you could see how right behind her there was an explosion in the building. They bombed the central building of Iranian National Radio and TV. The West never made a hero out of her.
Right,
and there was another woman. It's interesting. Three women. There was another woman who was a presenter on radio, and she too was defiant when the bombs were when the missiles were striking her building. And she said, "I'm ready to die." And it's extraordinary that none of these three women, this young woman who I don't know, I've never met her, and there are of course many other young women on the streets of Tehran these days defending their country and condemning this aggression and being steadfast in the face of U.S. bombs and Israeli count, because as Trump says, and as almost one among American elites say, these people have genetical differences. They have genetic differences, and thus they're not worthy.
Right. Yeah, and you would think that it was just like a matter of newsworthiness, right? Like I don't expect, honestly, any kind of appreciation or praise of the people of Iran, but you would think that like the Western media would just be like, wow, this is crazy. A woman is describing bombings and then it happens. But even their like kind of clickbaity headline chasing pressures are outweighed by the dehumanization of these, genetically inferior people, the way that they see them as genetically inferior.
And of course, and of course, and absolutely. And in the bombing, the victim was a woman. They murdered a woman.
Right.
So of course,
right.
Women don't count. Why are they being bombed? Because they're there to support the Palestinian people, even though they're being bombed. They're on the streets to support the Palestinians.
Right.
To say no to genocide. I mean, these people are just, they're unbelievable.
Right. Yeah, maybe they are different, but in a good way. They're certainly different from people here. But I wanted to, there's a question for you. Someone writes, I have a question for the professor. Does Iran have any Sunni allies besides Hamas? I'm not talking about people. I talk to Muslim people around the world and they all love Iran, but Iran needs allies in the region. And then I want to read a related comment, which is, Katie, please tell Dr. Marandi I am a modern liberated Arab woman and I am 100% with Iran and the Iranian people. I'm ashamed of these corrupted Arab leaders. And then I actually saw recently someone, while we were talking, texted this to me, texted me an article. Where is that article? Nate, you may have to send it to me again. It's the article that I had about Hamas. Hold on one second. I think I can find it. But do you want to respond to those questions while I bring that one up?
Yeah, I mean, if they mean governments, except for Yemen, no government supports the resistance actively like Iran. But Yemen is the prime minister that was murdered by the Israelis a while back, the prime minister of the Ansarullah government in Sana'a, was a Sunni. So it's not, the Yemeni resistance to the empire and the Yemeni resistance against the Israeli regime and the Yemenis who supported the people of Gaza and closed down the Red Sea, the cabinet and the government and the officials have people from different sects in them. Yes, Sunnis are, but if they mean governments, no, none of the governments. But the Republic of Azerbaijan is a Shia country. It's predominantly Shia. but it's a family dictatorship in power, and it's an ally of the Israeli regime.
Right.
So, the issue is that ordinary people, they support the resistance across the world, Muslim and non-Muslim. I mean, my Latin American friends,
Right.
my African friends are telling me that there's a huge, interest in Iran and the revolution, and people are, they're looking beyond the narrative now in a way that never existed before. So there's a lot of sympathy and support, and among and a lot of people, a lot of activists in Western countries are Muslims, Sunni, Shia, lots of Christians, Jews, people from all walks of life. So in India, many Hindus that are opposed to the government policies are very supportive of the Palestinian cause. My own Indian friends, they support the Palestinian cause. This is, so no, I don't, I mean, yes, no, there are no governments that are Sunni that are supporting the resistance, but but the supposed Shia government in the Republic of Azerbaijan is just as bad as Turkey and the Emirates and Egypt and Jordan. So it's not an issue that like they're good and they're bad. It's that all of these governments are basically pawns of the United States.
Right. I wanted to ask you about a story. Now, someone just sent this to me.
Kate, it's sort of like saying, it's like the whole Jewish thing to say,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Jews do they support Israel? No, many Jews don't support Israel. Many, I've heard that the majority of young Jews in America don't support Israel. So this is, many Sunnis, many Jews, many
Right.
Christians, many Hindus,
Right.
they support the resistance.
Right.
And those who don't support the resistance, they may be, or enemies of the Palestinians or allies of the Israeli regime, they may be Shia, they may be
Exactly, right.
Sunni, they may be Christian, they may be, well, they're not really religious if they believe in a just God,
Exactly, right.
and if they believe if they believe that their prophets and the men of and women of God are just, then they wouldn't support genocide. But they pretend to be religious,
Right.
or they
And they
pretend to be of
identify or
one
belong
sect
to
or
this.
another, but
Right.
they're the exact opposite of what they claim.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to, because the question was about Hamas, right? It was asking about governments or besides Hamas. There's an article from the BBC. Hamas urges key ally Iran to halt attack on Gulf states. I don't know if you've seen this. And again, this is from the BBC, so I don't know. But I was curious about it. Let's see, where is it? By Jaroslav Lukiv. It's from today. The Palestinian armed group Hamas, which is a funny way to describe them. The Palestinian armed group Hamas has called on Iran to stop its attacks on Gulf states in a rare appeal to its key ally. In a statement, the Tehran-backed group urged its, quote, brothers in Iran to avoid targeting neighboring countries, saying, end quote, saying all regional nations should cooperate, quote, to preserve the bonds of brotherhood, end quote. At the same time, Hamas, which governs Gaza, affirmed Tehran's right to defend itself against attacks by the U.S. and Israel, who are continuing to strike Iran. The Iranian authorities have said their own retaliatory strikes target, quote, American installations, end quote, on Gulf soil rather than neighbors themselves. But many attacks have hit civilian infrastructure. In the Saturday statement, so today's statement, Hamas said it was, quote, following with deep concern the ongoing war in the region, and it called upon all states and international organizations to work towards halting the war immediately. Iran has not publicly commented on the Hamas statement. Has this made the news there? And if so, what are your thoughts?
I did see it in an Iranian channel, online channel. So, but I didn't read it. I didn't open it because there are a few things I have to explain here. first I have to point out that I haven't read this in detail, and I don't know exactly if this is the political wing
Right.
of Hamas that made the statement or the military wing. Because when the political wing in 2011 and 12 tilted towards the CIA-led groups in Syria, the military wing had a different view of the situation. They were much more skeptical about what was going on in Syria than the political wing. So there was a difference between the political wing and the military wing back then. This, I don't know if this statement was the political wing, because the political wing is based in Doha.
Right.
And so Doha or Qatar hosts them. So I'm sure they're under enormous pressure to say something,
Exactly.
because one of the countries that is experiencing retaliation is Qatar. So, but since I don't know the details, this may be the political wing. They're in Qatar, but again, there's been a historical difference between the military wing has always been much closer to Iran. The political wing, because of different issues, obviously being based abroad, being based in places like Qatar, there are other influences too. But one thing that I should explain to your viewers is that why is it that Iran is targeting or are striking targets in the Persian Gulf region? The reason is that all of these countries, these tiny Arab family dictatorships, whether it's Kuwait or Qatar or Bahrain or the Emirates or Saudi Arabia or Oman even, all of them host bases, and those bases are very extensive. And they're not just small military bases. They have all sorts of assets across these countries. And they use those bases to target Iran. And in fact, the US military posted a video of HIMARS missiles being fired at Iran from the Persian Gulf region. So they're using the bases, they're using their airspace, they're using missile systems to target Iran from their countries. They're complicit.
Right,
They're
of
part
course.
of this war. They're killing Iranians. They're, they say we're neutral, but it's like, it's like, for example, Canada or Mexico giving a military base to, I don't like saying the Chinese, to Brazil. I mean, sorry to my Brazilian friends, and giving military bases to Brazil, and then Brazil firing at the United States from those bases or the surrounding areas. And then the Canadians and the Mexicans say, we're neutral, it's none of our business. You
Right.
can't be neutral, but these bases are in your territory.
Right.
So Iran is firing back. If Iran wanted to retaliate the way they struck Iran, they would be striking the palaces of the royal despots and the kings. They haven't done that. And another thing is that the Americans and they've left those bases and they go into hotels. So they're hiding behind a civilian infrastructure. They go into the ports, the ordinary ports. The Iranians are saying we're not going to refrain from striking you simply because you're outside of the base. So these countries are in no position to complain about Iran. Last night when they struck, heavily bombed the Iranian island of Khark and another Iranian island, they were using the UAE territory for those many of those strikes. So the Iranians are striking back at the UAE. It's not Iran that started the war.
Right.
Iran did not want war. Iran negotiated to prevent war. Even if the negotiations had not made any progress, they still had no right to attack Iran. But the Omani foreign minister who mediated said there was progress.
Right.
And then Witkoff lied and made up fabricated stories, and Trump lied, said that the Iranians said at the negotiating table that we want to make a bomb. I mean, why in the world would the Iranians say that? The Iranians, their official position is that they don't want nuclear weapons. And then they would go and tell their enemy, Trump, and the negotiators that we want nuclear weapons. And then, fortunately, the negotiations was the Omani foreign minister was involved. He was the mediator.
Right.
What he says there's no similarity between what he said and what Witkoff and Trump were saying. So obviously they're lying. But that's the world that we live in right now. So the Iranians did not want war, but now that it's been imposed upon them, this is an existential war. So they're fighting for their survival. For Trump, for the US, this is a war of choice. It is being carried out for the sake of the Israeli regime. And the American people are sacrificing because they're paying both for the Israeli regime's expenses in this war to kill women and children, and for the U.S. military. And now that the price of energy and other products, petrochemical products, all of these are going up, Americans and people across the world have to pay because Netanyahu and the Zionists lobby and the Epstein class, they want their war.
Right. Wanted to ask you on a related note. Two questions. So what would happen if these countries said to the US, no, you can't use our bases? I mean, what would the US do to these countries? I'm not like defending their choice. I'm just wondering what they would then have to face.
Here, leave our country, and we don't want to fight Iran, then the Iranians would not strike them.
Right.
It would be finished.
But the U.S.
And it would be almost
presumably do
impossible
something
for the
to them,
United
right?
States to engage in.
Or try to, yeah.
Well, yeah. When you become a proxy,
Right.
and you live as a proxy,
Yeah.
thinking as a dignified, independent person becomes almost impossible. All the countries in the region are basically U.S. proxies.
Right.
The big ones like Turkey and Egypt, I mean, their people support the Palestinian cause. The people are opposed to U.S. domination, but the leaders, they're in the American camp.
Right. Now, last question, especially because I know how uncomfortable you are physically. I want to ask you some, okay. Professor Marandi, they are after the tomb of Cyrus the Great, just got to trust, long story. They already took from Gilgamesh in Iraq. Then someone said, go on Sarah, fight the power. Sparky said that. Sparky also said, just like
I'm
the
listening. I'm listening.
Okay, sure. Yeah, definitely.
I'm listening.
Definitely take this time to get up and walk around. Just like the U.S. as a country, the U.S. military is only a shadow of a shell of what it was 40 years ago. Don't believe President Trump's hyperbole. Okay, then we'd had that question for you. Now, another question that we have is
one thing that I just like to address.
Yeah.
And that is that they often say how Iranian, the Iranian, their ideology is extremist, and it's from the Shia Muslim ideology. Of course, it's very much influenced by social justice because of the Prophet, his son-in-law, and standing up against the oppressor and supporting the press, as I explained once before, Imam Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet in Karbala. But the Shias also believe that near the end of time, the 12th Imam returns, and so does Jesus. And according, and in the Quran, it says that the oppressed become the oppressed, they are the inheritors of the earth.
right.
And so when they come, the oppressed are liberated. And there's nothing about destroying all the people and slaughtering all the people. It is about justice. And then these people, these Christian Zionists, want to bring all the Jews to Palestine to have them all massacred at the end of time.
Right.
And then the Zionist Jews, they do what they do, and then they call the Iranians the extremists.
Exactly.
That young girl who is speaking under the airstrikes, That's her ideology. What she's saying is that our God is bigger than your submarines or your aircraft carriers, and we are here. I mean, I'm contextualizing. I'm here. She's here because she supports the Palestinian people, and the Palestinians are not Shia Muslims; they're Sunni, and in fact, they're constantly being told by the Qataris and the Erdogans of the world and the Saudis and others that the Shias are your enemies, the Shias are bad. But the Iranians don't care. They're subjugated. The Iranians don't care if Cuba is a communist country. They're under oppression,
whatever,
or Venezuela.
Right.
So they try to depict Iran as somehow extremist and crazed, but in reality, this is all projection.
Yes.
They're the ones who are extremists and crazed.
Yeah, calling for the end days, calling for Armageddon, calling for that time when all the majority of Jews will be killed and then burn in hell for eternal damnation. I mean, it's unbelievable, and we covered this last week on Tuesday, which was with Colonel Wilkerson and Mikey Weinstein of the Military Freedom for Religion Foundation, where people are calling in to expose these high up commanders who are framing this as a war for Armageddon and saying that Donald Trump was anointed by Jesus Christ, which is hilarious.
So Jesus Christ and Moses, who for us are both infallible prophets, and both of them in the Quran. And Jesus's mother, Mary, she has a verse. She's a chapter of the Quran, or Mohammad or Imam Hussein. These people would support genocide.
Right. It's absurd.
I mean, it's extraordinary that a Christian Zionist would believe that Jesus would support the slaughter of Palestinian kids, or or having British planes flying over Gaza, gathering intelligence so that the Israelis could bomb, or American factories producing weapons to give freely to the Israelis to slaughter kids. Like Jesus would support that. Moses would support. I mean, this is not religion. This is just, they just use religion. They don't believe in it, but they just use religion because that's how they can empower themselves. That's how they can subjugate others. That's how they make the world theirs.
Yeah. Yes. It's really interesting because there's all this kind of Islamophobic talk of how, Muslims, they don't value life, and that's why they have their children, they're willing to sacrifice their children. And that's why you have suicide bombers, even though Islam is very clear, from what I understand, on suicide, and it's not actually okay in Islam. They frame a lot as based on religion. But what's interesting is that there are parts of the Shia religion, which I think do explain some, and again, you have good and bad using the same religion, right? So obviously you have people weaponizing it. I mean, I don't have to explain this to you, that we've talked about this with Judaism. You can see this with Islam. You see this with Christianity. You had Christians using the Bible to justify slavery, Christians using the Bible to fight against it. But there is this fascinating and kind of overwhelming tradition that I think correlates to the kind of behavior we see of people standing in the street despite the bombing. So it is funny that there's like people who try to attribute some behavior to religion. They're right. They're just wrong in the way that they do it, right? So the people who say, oh, they're a bunch of fanatics, fundamentalists, and that's why they don't mind getting killed. But there is a real bravery that you can connect to Shia. Can you talk about this history? You refer to it a little bit, but for people who want to know more about it, this ideology, I guess.
I think, it exists in all decent people that, decent people are willing to make sacrifices of one form or another. Not everyone is necessarily prepared to make the same amount of sacrifices, but decent people, that decency makes them commit themselves to helping others. I mean, that sacrifice could be something small. It could be like, you see, I'm out of money and then you give me some sort of financial support, or I'm in some sort of trouble and you spend half a day helping me get out of trouble. You know, these are all sacrifices. You don't have to do these sort of things. But these people on the streets of Tehran and these other streets, why are they there? Yes, they're willing to die. They're prepared to die for a cause that they believe is just. But why are they? What is that cause? It's to preserve the lives of the Palestinian kids.
Right.
It's because they love to preserve life. It's because they support the Lebanese kids that are being bombed right now as we speak, to preserve their lives. So they're
Exactly.
willing to put their lives on the line in order to help stop the genocide. So yes,
Right.
martyrdom for us is something that we're prepared for. I'm not a particularly good person. I consider myself a pretty bad person, but I'm willing to die for this cause. I'm willing to be bombed to support the Palestinian people. I'm willing to be bombed to support the Cuban people or the Venezuelan people. Wherever there's oppression, that is. But in the case of the Palestinians, it's so unbelievable, the slaughter and the you know, over 2 years, over 7 decades, but the last 2 years and a few months has just been beyond belief. And then the flattening of apartment buildings across Lebanon. Yes, we go to the streets or we stand steadfast because that is our religious belief. We believe our role model is the grandson of the prophet, whose own role model is the prophet and the prophets, and Jesus and Moses, all of the great figures of history, and Mary, and so the grandson of the prophet, he stood firm. His sister with him, Zainab, stood firm against oppression, and they made the ultimate sacrifice. These people. So people in Iran are willing to make that sacrifice. But what is that sacrifice? It is to defend the abused. It is to defend the oppressed. And for that reason, for 47 years, we've been sanctioned. We've had 3 wars imposed upon us. We've had terrorism and always antagonized. They send in the terrorists to kill people, and then they say the Iranians are killing peaceful protesters. They bomb the protesters themselves, and they don't even talk about it in the media. This is the upside down world that we're living in today. But these people are not going to give up the struggle, and they're not going to give up resistance. And ultimately, they cannot defeat these people.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you just pointed out, right? So I wasn't able to articulate it, but I knew you would be able to, which is basically the myth, like the Islamophobic racist trope, is that Muslims believe in the afterlife, so they're willing to martyr themselves while they kill other people. And really, it's what we're seeing is the willingness to martyr themselves. And I'm not saying all Muslims, obviously it's not a monolith, but I'm talking about the ones that are heroic, right? Like there is
Yes, but Christians, I mean,
Sure.
Jews have in Jewish history and Christian history.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah,
throughout
yeah.
history, you have people who've sacrificed themselves for the sake of others.
Right.
Muslims are from different sects.
Sure.
But for us in particular, this is very deep in our religious ideology because of Imam Hussein and his sister Zainab, and because of the events in Ashura. It is a very powerful, potent force. You know, social, the belief in social justice, the belief in being steadfast against oppressors and so on. But this is, I'm sure all of your viewers, except for maybe a couple of FBI agents who are listening in on your program every day. But I would imagine that why they listen to alternative media now, whether it's you or whether it's Max Blumenthal or whether it's Judge Napolitano or Nima or others. Everyone has that sense that we have to strive for justice, and we have to help. You want to go to Cuba? I mean, I'm sure you have other things you could do instead.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be welcomed when you come back. And I'd love to be. I mean, if we weren't in war, I was supposed to actually go to Venezuela a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But because of the situation, I couldn't go. Why do you go? Because you have that sense of responsibility, because you are willing to make sacrifices in one form or another for the sake of supporting victims. I think it's universal, except for those who think that the rest of us have genetic deficiencies or genetic abnormalities. I think everyone believes that this is, a human trait.
Right. No, I guess I'm just saying that there is again, I wish I were a believer, not to get personal. I wish I were a believer. I think it would give me a lot of solace. But what I will say is that what's fascinating is that it's not a martyrdom that allows people to kill others. It's a martyrdom or sense of an afterlife, I would say, that allows people to sacrifice in order to save and protect life, not take life away. So that's like the part
Yes,
that's
and ISIS, and ISIS and Al Qaeda, they are Western intelligence agencies' caricatures of Islam. Just as Zionism is a caricature of the Judaism that friends of yourself and friends of mine have been practicing.
Exactly.
And the same with Christianity.
Right.
And as I said, in India, I have good friends in India who support the Palestinian cause, and they completely oppose the position taken by some of these fanatics in India. So it's something that the vast majority of human beings across the world would comprehend. It's the Epstein class and those who are affiliated to them who either can't comprehend this or don't want to.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. Marandi, one more question for you. This is from Dark Matter Zombies. Very generous donation. Thank you. Dr. Marandi, which of the kings will be deposed? Will all of them? We are all Palestinian now. Free Palestine. We'll all be free. Not sure which kings he's referring to, but. Oh, let me read that to you again.
I don't know
you can't
which.
See it. Sorry.
What was his name? I was more fascinated by the name than the kings.
Dark Matter Zombies is his name. And he wants to know which of the kings will be deposed. Will all of them? We are all Palestinian now. Free Palestine. We will all be free. I don't know if he means the kings as in like the leaders of the Gulf, in the Gulf.
The Persian Gulf. Yeah. I don't know, but I don't think it's ever going to go back to what it was before. These U.S. proxies will never. I mean, the Emirates, they brought it upon themselves, but the Emirates was unbelievably corrupt. I mean, Doha, Qatar, they were funding ISIS and Al Qaeda more than anyone else. The Saudis, to be fair, under Mohammed bin Salman, they distanced themselves from Wahhabism. But before him, it was they who were the real funders of these extremists. Then Qatar and Erdogan, they supported these extremists. But the Emirates, they've been supporting all sorts of corruption. And the drug trade in our region, all the money goes through the Emirates. I mean, in Afghanistan, when the Americans were occupying the country, and the drug production, poppy production went through the roof, the money was going through the Emirates. All the big drug dealers in the world are either living in the Emirates, or they're living in Los Angeles, or they're living in Miami, or they're living in New York. But one of the four places is the Emirates. So in Africa, all these dirty wars and all these militias that they destroy countries, and then they start stealing the gold from these, that gold money, the wealth that comes from the theft of and the plunder of Africa. It usually goes through the Emirates. So the Emirates is the center of moral corruption in our part of the world. And I have no sympathy for the regime, obviously. But in any case, Iran didn't start this war. Iran tried to prevent the war. But they can't have bases and facilitate U.S. attacks on Iran, and then they can't have their cake and eat it too.
Right. Before you leave, Dr. Marandi, and as always, it's just amazing talking to you. But someone wrote, and thank you for this, Babak DK50, that the translation of that song that young boy Mikhail was singing is, "Father, a father is love, a father is pride, a father is the man who gives everything for his family." So that apparently are the lyrics. So. Anything else you want to add? I mean, you've been so generous with your time, and you're probably very sore on your whole bottom half of your body.
Yeah,
Probably numb.
yeah,
So thank you for
the
that.
seat is not. It's a
yeah.
terrible seat, and I'll try to do something about it
Yeah,
next
you
time.
have
But
to, because you're the
yes,
busiest man in YouTube. Yeah.
well, all I'd like to say is that I'm very grateful to you and to Brad and to the audience, because the heroes are not just these young, these young people on the streets of Tehran who are, in defiance of the empire and supporting the Palestinian people. It's all those people across the world who are all in the same camp. And these are dark days and dark nights in Tehran and in other cities, and in Beirut and Baalbek in Lebanon and in Gaza, of course. But we have to be optimistic, and I have no doubt that there will be better days ahead. We may not be able to see it because it's or feel it because it's so dark, but I have no doubt that whether all of us survive or not, or all of us see that, is not really relevant. But there will be better days ahead, and our duty is to never be depressed or to give up, but we have to remain steadfast and do what we have to do.
Well, thank you for that. Oh, Ramadan Kareem.
Thank
And
you.
Of course. And definitely come back. Thank you for everything you do. You're such an inspiring, steadfast voice, and hoping and wishing for nothing but safety for you and your family and friends and all the people of Iran.
And Ramadan Kareem to you and everyone
Thank you.
else. And I hope to see you all soon.
Yes. And inshallah, when this is all over, I want to go to Iran. So I will definitely meet you.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or maybe we can
Inshallah.
meet in Venezuela. One of those two places.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I was speaking to one of my friends in Venezuela just a couple of hours ago, and I was saying, I'm waiting for your victory so that we can come
Yeah.
and celebrate together.
Now, have you been there? Have you been to Venezuela?
Yeah, I've been
Yeah,
there
right.
a number of times.
Right, right.
Yeah, we have.
But not to
Yeah.
Cuba, right?
I've been to Cuba
Oh,
actually.
you have? Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
I've been to Cuba for a couple of days, and it was great fun and very nice people.
Yeah,
Very,
extremely nice
very,
people,
very
right?
tough. It was
Oh,
very
yeah.
tough then.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it must be a lot tougher now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. I'll see you in some good nation with good people at some point.
That's almost everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Not my place. But New York's different. New York isn't America. I think of it as different. It's an outpost.
Oh, there are lots of good Americans.
Yeah.
There are lots of good people there too.
Yeah. Have a great night, and thank you so much.
Thank you. You too. See you, Brad.
Wow, what an amazing guest. It is so inspiring speaking to Dr. Marandi, and I wish and I hope that part of the reason I always bug people to like the stream is because I really want people to hear this voice. It is so important. And no matter what you think, I would say, of the Iranian government, I mean, I'm totally committed to having on voices of people like his. And I don't even want to say that. I mean, that makes it seem like I'm making a disclaimer. I'm just saying we need to have as many Iranian voices challenging American imperialism and hegemony as possible. And I'm so grateful to him for coming on the show. So please do like if you're watching this later.